episode 30 of Radio Faith. Have DJ Overflow today. And man, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Just kind of taking it day by day at this point. You know what I mean? We're under still somewhat of a pandemic. I think our city's trying to move forward, and I think trying to get 25% of people to be able to come out and do some events and stuff like that. So taking it day by day, and I'm excited to hear that with as far as our city, man.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the last event we saw. Actually, it's the first and last event that we
yes.
saw each other. It's February. You said February 3rd of this year. Which I was just thinking about that. I was talking to my wife that the first time we met was online over the phone. Yes. And then we met this February at Pastor Kevin Gerald's book release.
Yes.
That was such a great event. And like I said, before the show started, it's so weird. It was only a few months ago, but it seems like years ago because it was a packed house, people everywhere. No one even considered the phrase social distancing because it wasn't even a phrase.
No.
And then just a month later, bam, nothing like that.
It's fun. It's funny you said that. So sometimes we're either talking to friends or FaceTiming or Zooming with friends, and we're like, you remember the old days when we would go to the movie theaters, you know? Yeah. Like, you remember the old days when we used to do this, you know? Just because, and it's been 6 months of pandemic, COVID living, however you want to call it. But it feels forever. It's felt, you know, but even though it's only been 6 months, I mean, half a year, it's crazy because it feels so distant. I mean, the idea of going to the movie theaters feels so distant.
It's crazy. And then drive-through movie theaters came back in. So I guess that's a plus from something coming through.
I think we're going back to the 50s, maybe, I guess.
Yeah.
We're kind of, you know.
Yeah, you can't go into some restaurants you can go into, other restaurants you can't. They're bringing the food out to you, or you just have to wait in the car. It's really, really crazy, man. And how things have changed. One thing you and I were talking about earlier is how the music industry has changed, specifically, you know, the live events, which is definitely something that you're into. Can you tell us a little bit how it's affected you, the initial impact that you experienced personally and professionally in March, and then how you've navigated through it?
Yeah. So when the city shut down, you know, obviously, I think the first week people were kind of in the air. So a lot of my bookings that I had and events that I had already locked in for the year I was like, okay, it's just going to be a week or 2 weeks and we're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. But I think right around the second week when things got a little bit more serious, I remember getting the phone calls and the emails and people saying, hey, we're not going to get married this year. We're not going to do this event this year. And so here I am, I'm you know, looking at all my scheduling and everything's just stop, no go, reschedule. And, you know, this is what I do for a living. This is how I feed my family. So, you know, I was like, okay, Lord, how am I going to survive? You know, you kind of start looking at those things. Luckily, I've been doing full-time DJing, full-time ministry, full-time studio for the last 7 years, you know, so I've been, and within the last 7 years, I've learned, I guess you could say, to try to do my best to have some cushion, to have some savings for low months or slow months, you know, because DJing, there are some slow or seasonal months. So anyways, obviously, you know, God has blessed me, and I've, you know, with wisdom and prepping for that, I've had some stuff to be able to kind of touch and survive. But I mean, I'll just put it out there. I probably lost anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 just this year. You know,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I lost a lot of money this year because of COVID. And so what I've happened to do is to adapt to that. And one of the ways that I did that was just to try to start doing this online stuff. You know, mm-hmm. I think it was probably month 2, which, you know, a lot of people were trying to find ways to say, how can we continue to engage people? How can we continue to engage our youth? How can we continue to engage just generally? And so I was getting phone calls from a couple of churches say, hey, are you willing to do any online live DJing? And so I was like, yeah, you know, to be honest with you, I said yes, but I was not prepared for it. You know, it was like, okay, it's like God was like, yeah, you're going to have to kind of, let me just push you towards this new avenue. And so I've been fortunate enough to be able to figure out how to use my laptop, my GoPros, and set them up in my studio and then record live, and then not only just record live, but then take this live session and then edit this live session, make it look professional, put the intros, the countdowns, pretty it up, you know, all this stuff. And so I've had to do that. And it was kind of crazy because I do love computers. I do computer repairs, you know, which I've had to kind of run to, or as far as financially, I've kind of had to run towards that a little bit and say, hey, if anybody needs specifically Apple repairs, hit me up. You know, if you need a LCD repair, you want to upgrade faster RAM or new, you know, hard drive or more hard drive. I mean, so I've, you know, having to kind of do side things that I wouldn't normally do. But going back in hindsight, because I know computers, I was able to really kind of get these GoPros and then, you know, make it all work and edit these videos and do these live things.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's I think it's John Maxwell that I'm going to butcher his quote, but he said something about shifting your perspective on problems and not calling them problems, but calling them opportunities. Because when you call a problem an opportunity, you start to go into being innovative.
Yes.
And man, that definitely, I think everyone across the board, if you haven't innovated during this time, then you've just been falling off, and you're not gonna make it through. And so many people, like you mentioned how much you lost financially because of COVID. I know so many other people have been going through that as well.
Yeah.
And if they didn't have, like you said, you didn't have wisdom to prepare for such, not specifically for a pandemic, but for an event, because you never know what's going to happen.
Then
it definitely opens your eyes up to that.
Yeah, I think the situation for me, it's kind of crazy, but so there's an app called Reverb that is for musicians, and you can buy like used bass players, guitars, DJ gears for beat machines and things like that. So I've fixed old school beat machines like the MPC 2000 XL, MPC 2000. For some of y'all who don't know what that is, it's a beat machine with all the little pads, and you can sample and make beats out of it. So I've learned to fix those and repair those. So I've had to revert in order for me to make some kind of income. I've had to revert and go online and buy broken or partially messed up beat machines. And I've had to repair them and put them up for sale and make an extra $200-300 on the side. You know, and so it's kind of funny. And, you know, we talked about the repairs of the computers and the beat machines. And it's kind of crazy because I've always known how to do this, but I never pursued to make income out of it. It was more of, I know how to do it because I DJ, and I always max out all my computers. I make sure that all my computers are working at its highest standard that it can. Obviously, as a producer, you learn to kind of, you have to kind of, as a producer, you kind of have to learn how to fix your own things as far as computer goes, as far as beat machines. So you learn these things, you know. Shout out to YouTube, by the way. YouTube is you know, if you want to learn something on YouTube, that's just the way to go. But you don't really look at it as another way or another stream of income. And so this pandemic, to me personally, has pushed me that route. And I'm just like, Lord, thank you so much, because I didn't even think about it as another source of stream of income.
That's good. That's good. You know, as you're talking, you just made me think about in the Bible, Joseph, that we know Joseph ends up being second in command of the most powerful nation in the world at that time, overseeing the distribution of food during the famine. But he started out as a shepherd, you know, shepherd to Potiphar's house, to the prison, and to the palace. But considering that, had he not gone through that process and developed those skill sets, that he would have never been prepared to do that. I mean, he learned what he needed to as far as management in Potiphar's house. And then I think he learned humility while he was in the prison.
By the way, even in prison, you learn how to ration your food, by the way.
That's true, man. I didn't even think about that. That's true.
Yeah.
That's so good. But yeah, it's crazy though, but that just we were joking earlier about how pastors were probably preparing their 2020 sermons at the end of 2019, and it's 2020, so you know, clear vision ahead. But how nothing, in order to have to move forward in vision and have clarity of sight, you got to get rid of the distractions. Because there's so many things that get in our way. And 2020 is the year that I think got rid of a lot of people's distractions. What are some things in your life that you realized through this process that have been a distraction to see the vision that God gave you to move forward?
Yeah, I think for me, man, it's one of those things, and I think a lot of us as believers, we fall into this, I would say maybe cycle, right? Where it's almost like a checklist. It's like you go to church, you serve, you do the life groups, right? And you're doing all this and doing that. And of course, your heart is in it. But I think sometimes if you're not paying attention and making sure that your relationship with Jesus and that communication is stronger than anything else, all these other things more than likely are going to become just a checklist and a thing that I just do because I feel that this is the right thing as a Christian that I should do.
That's
and
good.
so I think in 2020, I think God is able to put a stop on that and say, hey, wake up, focus on me, focus on my relationship, the relationship that you and I established. Go back to your first love without all this distraction. I said this a while ago. I think sometimes some of us, even during this pandemic, we always told God, man, God, if you would have given me more time, I would do this for you. Or if you would give me more time, I would be able to go and do this. Well, guess what? God's given us 6 months of time. Yeah. And when this is all done, you can't use that excuse anymore. And so I said that I think 2 months in, this is a revelation that God put in my heart and say, look, this is your time now, that there are things that you said, only if I had more time, I would be able to do this. And so good. I started to think about some of those things like, man, you know what? Innovation. We talked about innovation, man. You know what I can polish up a little bit more as far as production, right? Yes, I am a producer. I do remix. I DJ my own, mash up my own music. And I've produced in the past for artists, but I never really spearheaded to say, let me do more music. Let me do more singles in collaborations with artists from singers and worshipers here locally in Houston. And let's do more collaborations. Yeah. And so during this time, God just kind of pushed me to that. And that happened, though, is because I went back to saying, God, I'm paying attention to what you have. I'm paying attention to the clarity and the vision and what you've want me to live out and the purpose you put inside of me. I think sometimes we get caught up with either that one thing that God has for us. So for me, for instance, I love DJing. And so I focus solely, and I guess you could say it's been laser focused. So I've just doing the DJ. But on the side of that, I've always done production. I've always done recording. I've always done mixing. I've always done mastering. But I've never fully focused and elevated in those areas. The Truth says something very, very significant. This is years ago that resonated. He said, man, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah. And I think this pandemic has also made me realize that, man, things will shift and you should always be planning ahead. Always look to what's ahead of you. What are you going to do? And the reality too is, I'm not going to say my age, but the reality is I don't want to be a 40-year-old DJing at a 15-year-old birthday party. Or you know what I'm saying? Or going at a youth event and there's 15-year-olds and then there's this 40-year-old DJ telling you to jump. I think, and not saying that you can't, don't get me wrong, but I feel this is just me though, right? This is just what I feel. I feel like, man, you know what? It's time to move on. Maybe it's, at 40, instead of me being the DJ, I'm teaching the 15-year-olds how to DJ properly. I'm teaching them to lead the new generation.
That's good, man. That's good. I was about to ask you that. In all your years of experience, both biblically and then professionally, the Bible tells us, as we grow in the faith, that we're supposed to mentor and disciple those of the coming up in the faith, but then professionally as well. One of the privileges we have in being in an industry that for so long is to go out there and find quote unquote disciples in that industry. What are the questions that those people that you've been mentoring, what are the questions that they've been giving you during this time that you've been able to breathe into them?
Yeah, so actually it's kind of crazy that we're segueing into this, and I know this is not a topic that we plan on talking about. So there's a group called Kingdom Business DJs that actually has formulated during the pandemic. That's awesome. My boy DjOverflow, who was one member of Back in the Gap. There was a group called Chopaholics, secular. They would be the ones doing all the chopping, and they were very popular in Houston. So DjOverflow got saved and he kind of moved away from that lifestyle and then from DJing. And he's been walking with the Lord for quite some years now. And
Awesome.
so he kind of put a group together, say, hey, man, I just want to put a band of brothers that love DJing, that love the Lord, but I want us to kind of disciple each other, to help each other grow. You know what I'm saying? During this pandemic, obviously, some of us can't work doing these things. So what are some things that we can do together to continue doing and using the resources? So one of the things that we did, man, to be honest with you, is we did a thing called Labor Day Get Down. So all the DJs went on Monday, and we all had a specific hour, and we went on live and DJed, and did our thing for it. And so during that, some of them were like, how am I going to go live? I don't know how to use this internet thing, or I don't know how to go use Premiere and go on Facebook and Premiere Video, or go and load this up on IGTV. So there were some of us who knew how to do certain things in there, and we just kind of threw all of that in the bucket, and we were all able to get all that resource of information and use it for, what we were doing on Monday. And this is just this past Labor Day. Cool, and so for you to say that, man, I think even right now with COVID and this pandemic that we're in, man, find your community, that you can get together, even if it's on Zoom or if it's on Facebook. There's a bunch of communities out there that are getting and banding together, whether it be finances, whether it be stock market, whether it be obviously DJing, whatever the case may be. Find that stuff and grow. Discipleship is definitely one thing that we're working on, even as DJing. There's a DJ by the name of DJ Kool-Aid. Shout out to Kool-Aid once you see this, man. But Kool-Aid just gave his life to the Lord 2 months ago. And Kool-Aid was part of the Chopaholics. So Kool-Aid is part of one of the, the members in this group that we have. And Kool-Aid's like, he's the babe. So he's asking questions about, what is Yeshua? What's the meaning between Yeshua and Jesus? And, and he's asking a bunch of questions. And that, it's crazy, because when you disciple people and you're trying to teach other people, it reminds you of where you came from. Because sometimes you forget, man. I've been running with the Lord since 2004, right? It's been a very long time. And so I think sometimes we get very comfortable with the blessings and give, and, of course we grow. We're no longer babes. We're eating meat. We're not, we mature. But in that maturing, sometimes we tend to forget how we really were as babes. So DJ Kool-Aid is in this process of growing, and he just reminds me of me when I first started. And it's doing something in my heart. It's doing something in my spirit as well, just to watch him. And it's like, man, I just love it, man. I love it. It's been a blessing.
That's so good, man. That's so good. Especially, everything you said. And then you talked about being in community. At the church I served at about a month ago, one of the core values was just, or one of the things that we said is that life is not meant to be lived alone. Then we learned that in the beginning of Genesis, where God sees Adam and he says, it's not good that man should be alone. Now that's true as far as, within, not just within the confines of, marriage and man and woman, but you just think you go and take that concept of just community and relationship and then take that into professionally. You can go, I think the saying is, you can go fast alone, but you can go further together. And that's so important. Those people that did life alone during the pandemic, I think probably have had the hardest time. But those people that have been living life in community, when not only when pandemic, but when bad days happen in general, you have that community to come around you, whether it's professionally or non-professionally, and definitely within the context of the church, because that's what we
I think community, man, you realize that you're not alone, in the context of community. You realize, oh, I'm not the only one thinking this way. I thought I was the only one battling with these things. And then you come to find out like, no, dude, like I think about that too, but this is what I'm doing to overcome, or this is what I've done in the past to overcome. And you find that confidence, you find that hope, you find that love, you find that understanding. And then you find yourself and say, man, I'm not alone in this. I'm in my head. I'm up in my head, and I need to get out of this.
That's so good, man. I was listening to another podcast, and the guy was talking about, there's a saying, find your why. And he was saying to find out, I think how you say it, to find out what your purpose is, you got to find out what the problem is that you were meant to help solve. And he said the best way that he's found to discover what problem he's put on this earth to solve is to look at who he used to be, because that's who who he's supposed to be discipling or mentoring. You just talked about that with DJ Kool-Aid. I think DJ Kool-Aid's watching on live right now because he just left a comment in the chat. So hey, DJ Kool-Aid, thanks for joining us if you're watching online. Well, that's it's such a blessing, man, to see when you go into that transition and it just clicks like, oh man, now I'm in the mentor position. When you go through those years of being mentored, and a good teacher knows that you're always being taught.
Yes.
And it comes through and you're able to pour out the saying that we have, that you're blessed to be a blessing.
Yes.
And it's just so good to get to that transitional point. So you talked about being able to disciple people through the pandemic. How, considering that you're a family man, if you don't mind touching on this, how has it been within that part of life and discipling your family through it?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is so at the very beginning, I won't lie, it was very difficult, because there's a sudden change. There's a sudden change in the aspect that you're at home with your family all day long. And for me to sit here and I would tell you, oh, everything's been peaches and creams with my wife and I, we don't get in no arguments, and she hasn't, I would be lying to you. We've had our days where we've been neck to neck, because I'm not going and leaving for a few hours or for a long period of time and doing work and doing this where she can miss me. You know what I'm saying? And so, we've had to learn to adjust those things. And so, I think at the end of the day, man, just the reading of scriptures, we still do church at home on Facebook, on Sundays. We still go up and put the, listen to preachings on there. We still try to get some devotionals in there. My wife is constantly, when I tell you this, she encourages even me, because there's some days I won't sit here and lie to you. I'll slack off a little bit, but she'll come in there and, I'll catch her in the kitchen and she's reading her word, and then it's like, okay, you know what? Get my phone. Let me open up the Bible app. Let me get in here real quick. And not even at that too, but, just to be able to do that and to see her doing that is very, very encouraging. You know what I mean?
Good.
It can get very difficult. It was very difficult, I think, for us, the adjustment in like the first or second month going in, because you're like, I'm used to going to church. I'm used to doing this with the community. I'm used to doing all of that. And it's funny because during COVID, I was reminded, man, I am the priest of my home. I need to be praying for my family. I need to be praying for my son. I need to be, talking about Jesus and doing that. So it's been, like I said, it has been a learning curve for me. Not to say that I didn't know how to do it. I think it's, how to do it, but now it's time to put it in action.
That's good, man. That's good. Yeah. I know. Same position for us, man. When so it hit here in the States in March. That's when the lockdown started happening. The lockdown happened a week before our 10-year anniversary.
Wow.
Which we had planned to go out on a cruise.
Wow.
Cruises weren't happening anymore.
Wow.
10 years 10 years, my wife saying, hey, we should go on a cruise. We should go on a cruise. The year I said, okay, we're going on a cruise. No, we're not. Because that industry is gone so far. So man, it was an interesting first month for us as well. And like you said, those passionate conversations happen, and through the same thing process for me, the church I was serving at, we have this practice of prayerfully considering what one word God wants us to focus on throughout the year. And my word is refinement, that God was going to refine me. So man, when March hit, I was like, oh man, this is going to be a crazy year of refinement. So, and in the process, I've been, as we talked about distractions earlier, I've been seeing the distractions that I've had coming back to the podcast, this relaunch. This would have never relaunched the pandemic not happened. But the main thing in my personal refinement was in the same as being a husband and a father, because I was letting everything else get in the way and trying to be an amazing leader here with teams professionally and ministerially. And then God's like, no, I need to refine. You need to be refined to be a better husband and a better father. And then you can grow further for your team.
And it's okay. Like, I was just having this conversation with a couple of my brothers, some of them have been youth pastors and leaders, and they've been doing it for years, and they haven't had a time to really like sit and rest, and I always said it like, man, Moses would leave his group and would spend time with Jesus, you know. So you have to learn to withdraw, and you have to learn to, one, obviously get it on with the Lord, but you also have to withdraw and think about the first ministry the Lord has given you and spend time with them. You know, I'm not gonna lie, during COVID, I've had to learn some of those things. I mean, you know, like I just went today, like 2 hours ago. My wife likes to work out, and then she likes to take our dog for a walk. And you know, there's some days where I don't want to go walk, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not on my. I'm at this point. I'm not on my health tip. To be honest with you, I'm not working out. She's been working out for almost the last 3 weeks, you know, and I feel bad. I'm gonna be honest. I'm share where I'm really at. This is not, you know, some fake YouTube or, you know, you're gonna get. I'm sharing y'all where I'm really at, and so I'm not on my health tip right now. You know, I'm not. You know, we're definitely eating better. She's, you know, eating healthier stuff, and I'm eating it. So anyway, so she works out, and then she was like, hey, I'm going to go take the dog out or whatever. So I'm like, you know what? I need to do my duty as well. I need to, you know, spend time with her, walking the dog and just being there. You know, sometimes it's not even necessarily about just having a conversation. It's really just be there, you know, just be there and just do it and be a part of that, you know? So, you know, like I said, these are things that I still, during pandemic, I don't got it all together. I'm not going to sit and be like, hey, I'm 100%, you know, like I'm DjOverflow and he's a superhero, you know.
That's good, man. Transparency, definitely. So I want to talk a little bit about the music you mentioned that you're working on projects, but you mentioned about getting away, and you know, biblically speaking, we call it Sabbath, and it's just the idea of getting away from everything else and just spending that time with God. I know as creative people, we can get lost in the process of everything. What is it that you do personally to get away and to let God, you know, fill you back up so that you can go back into that creative process?
You know, it's kind of crazy. So when I produce music here at home, so I'm averaging out about 2 to 3 beats a day, right?
Nice.
That's kind of what I'm averaging out, right? And so I think at this point, I almost have probably, and normally on the weekends, I'm not in the studio. I'm normally in the studio Monday through Friday. I try not to work on the weekends. I try to just spend my weekends, you know, with my family. And every now and then I might get bookings. It just really depends, you know. And obviously COVID, you know, financially, if I got to get a booking on the weekend, I got to do what I have to do for my family. But normally, so I'm in here and I'm do 2 to 3. But my mentality has always been worship. So when I come in, it's like, okay, God, give me what you want me to create. My mentality is never, oh, I want to create this dope hit or this dope single. It's always been, Holy Spirit, give me worship. I do hip hop beats. I do lo-fi beats. I do dance music. I do all these kinds of different productions. So everything that I ever do at the core heart, when I come in here every morning with a cup of coffee, is God, I want to worship you by making what I make and just allowing God to lead. So that's like, for me as a creative, that's one way that I'm getting it in with the Lord every single day, is just by doing that and doing it as an act of worship. I tell a lot of my friends that are rappers, they come in and they're like, bro, you got so many beats and stuff like that. And I'm like, bro, I'm gonna be honest. I said, some of this music will probably never see the light of day. I said, but it was moments where God and I were together and I made some of this stuff, you know? So that's kind of been my mentality. That's always been my mentality as a producer, is like, God, I want to worship you doing what it is that I'm doing.
That's awesome, man. 3 beats a day.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, so I've been doing this 16 years now. So I've been doing DJing music 16 years. And I think with that, I've learned a workflow, I guess is what you want to call it. You know, there's a workflow. I've gathered systems within my computer and I know how to navigate to be able to make these things pretty fast, you know, pretty quick. I mean, they said there's like, you know, producers like Pharrell and Kanye and a bunch of other producers. I mean, these guys can make beats in 15 minutes.
Wow.
But it goes back, you know, they've been doing it for so long and they've created this system in there, you know. So
that's good, man. Yeah. So what are some beats that you are gonna put out there that they are gonna see the light of day?
Yeah, man. So right now there's a project called Vertical Lo-Fi. So it's funny that you said, you know, you asked me like, how do I get creatively and I come in to the studio to worship. every project that I've released in the past, I've never in any shape, way, or form ever put it out there that it's an act of worship. You know that? And I've never put it out there that way. And then until recently, I said, man, I need to do something that ties into my thought process when I come in the studio every day to produce. And so I was like, man, I'm gonna do something called vertical lo-fi. So lo-fi right now there's a huge community of people who do study. So lo-fi is considered like study music. It's got some hip hop influences. It's got some old school textures and things like that. And so, man, God just inspired me like literally maybe a week ago. And I was like, man, I want to take that lo-fi vibe and create some worship music with it. And so right now I have a worshiper by the name of Will Taylor. He actually is one of the worshipers at Union Houston, which he and I actually recorded a single that we released a few months ago. Right before the pandemic, we released a hip hop song called Slabs, which is it's a H-Town anthem song. And what Slabs means is show love always broke, right? Slab, S-L-A-B, yeah, show love always broke. And it's got, you know, it's heavy H-Town anthem and everything. And so we released that, but we were in this conversation to say, man, I want to do something totally different. I want to create a new style of worship music. I want to create, and this has been a conversation or something that I've talked about as far as a new style of worship for quite some time. And so Will and I were like, hey, man, let's do an EP. Let's sit down. He loves worship. He likes to rap, but his heart is worship, you know? And I said, hey, man, I got a bunch of lo-fi hip hop beats. Let's kind of merge worship and lo-fi hip hop. I said, what would we call this if we were merge that world and do some kind of worship? And it was vertical lo-fi. That's what we came up with. Yeah. That's awesome, so that's in the works. There's no definite time frame yet. But I can tell you that particular project is going to be very loose, very spirit-led, very open and free. You're not as structured as most songs would normally be. We really want to take in and bring in worship and really allow the Spirit to lead Will in this lo-fi vertical worship idea that we have.
That's awesome, man. That's pretty cool. I'm excited to hear what you'll come up with. Yeah. That's cool. So that's in the works. Is there anything that you have coming up that's going to be released soon that's, you know, solid locked in?
Yeah, actually tonight at midnight, we got 3 EPs being released. So nice. I was in a rap, reggaeton, Spanish, and English rap group from, I would say, the years of like 2008 and like 2011. And so we were in this, you know, I formed a rap group at the youth that I was a part of. And these were the days where, by the way, I went to a, you know, Hispanic Latin church. These were the days where rap music was, eso del diablo, you know, that's the devil, bro, you know? So, you know, it wasn't as embracive as it is today. And so we would do these songs at our youth events. And man, honestly, I would say this, Proceso Divino, we had God uses so tremendously. There was maybe about 2 years, we would have every Friday night, we had youth services. For a span of 2 years, we had over 300 youth show up on a Friday night. So all the Latin churches that wouldn't use rap music, all their youth would show up at our church because we were embracing the culture. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that was like their getaway to say, man, we're going to go over here because they're doing something totally different. So we did EPs. We put them on CDs, and that was really it. This was MySpace days. You know, YouTube wasn't really necessarily popping. We didn't know how to get deals. We didn't know how to get distribution. It was all in-house type stuff. So I would say, you know, a few years later, I would say like 3 weeks ago, man, I just felt like, man, I was like, you know what? We never released this music on social media. It's like, man, we had a huge following then. I said, it'd be dope if we can just get that old music, try to revamp and remix as much of it that we can, and just release it for the world. You know, God gave us the music. God gave us the lyrics. It's his music. It's not ours.
That's good.
You know, and so it's like, let's just release it. It's not even about the money either. It's just, man, hey, this music is going to bring hope. We're living in a pandemic right now. People need hope. People need, you know, that push, that push to go find God, that push to stay connected to God, that faith to keep, keep going, not giving up, that hope to keep going, keep pushing. So, it's funny because, all the members got married, got kids. So we're all in different stages in our lives. So I DM all the guys and say, hey man, what do y'all think about releasing this music to the world? Y'all, I was like, let's just get it out there. We're living through a pandemic, the people that were supporting us then, obviously most of them are probably have families, have kids. And if we release it, I'm sure they would tap into this music again and somehow find an inspiration to keep fighting for life.
That's good, man.
So tonight we got 3 projects, Proceso Divino, and it's spelled PROCESO DIVINO. It is in Spanish. We might have some flows in there in English. You know what I'm saying? But it's dope music, man. It's lyrical content music, man.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, what is it going to be on all digital platforms, or is it exclusively?
It's going to be all digital: Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, Napster. For those who do or still use Napster, I don't know if you knew this, but there's actually a group of people that still need to use Napster. By the way,
I didn't.
Yeah, Napster's still a thing, y'all. For real. Yeah, Napster's still available. Napster, y'all need to send me something y'all need to send Radial Faith for this plug right here. So it'll be available everywhere. I'm super excited. One of the guys that was in the group passed away about 4 years ago on a freak accident. So we actually are releasing it on the day that he passed away, which is tomorrow or tonight. Okay. And so which is it was a meaningful thing for us to do this release as well. To do it at this time. So we have that particular project coming out, and then we have some pending projects. There's an artist by the name of Trillos who's got singles, and he's got an EP as well. He does the Spanish and English rap, which I think you're going to start seeing a lot of that here, specifically in Houston, by the way. Yeah. It's starting to create this buzz right now lately where there's like this Spanish rap, a Spanish and English rap flow kind of being combined together. Trillos is going to be releasing a couple things. We got a song called La Calle that pretty much what it is. It talks about the streets. For those of y'all who don't know Spanish, La Calle means street. And he wrote a storyline about the streets. We're in process to hopefully do a real dope music video for it. And then we have a single that we worked on last night with World Rejects with Fire. He just dropped the verse, and Trillos will be featured on that as well. So we worked on that last night. Obviously, we talked about Vertical Lo-Fi, and that's definitely pending. And so we got that. And then just this year, I've released, let's see, I'm trying to look at my list here, 3, 4, 5 beat tapes just this year. There's the BAP Sessions, Mellow Moods beat tape, Plunder Phonic Ascension, Music, and Lo-Fi Stimulus beat tape. Nice. I did a Lo-Fi Stimulus beat tape, by the way. So all of that's available on Spotify, iTunes. If you type in DjOverflow, all together one word, you'll be able to find it. And if you don't, get with Radial Faith and ask, hey, how do I get it? I'll send him some information, or you can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook. Instagram is at DjOverflow, and then on Facebook I am DjOverflow, and we'll send you all that information.
That's so good, man. That's awesome. Just to see everything that God is doing through you during this pandemic, with everybody you're working with and all the music that you're putting out there. There's I think it was earlier this month, or not this month, this year. Pastor Stephen Furtick, he had a sermon. I think it's called "Flip the Bag." It's been one of his most famous sermons thus far, and it's about the parable about the talents. And he talks about how you had that one guy who had the talents and buried them, but then you had the other guy that went out and made an investment. And it's definitely right now is the time to make that investment in whatever talents or gifts and skill set God has given you. Because in pretty much what you said, it's not for you to hold on to. Like you said that you had this worship music it hadn't been distributed through social media because it was done way before. I think any creative person listening right now, whether it's visual arts or audio, we all have files upon files that are hidden in our computer or locked away in our head that we're just, for whatever reason, we're not releasing. I was scrolling through social media and I saw a post yesterday and it said perfection is the excuse to not start. And I was like, yeah, that's true. There's a lot of stuff that I'm just holding on to because I'm waiting for it, to be perfect.
Yeah.
But you just got to let it go out there because it does no one any good to sit in my hard drive and it's just there. And
what did it say? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's true.
That's so what you said something very interesting that I share with a lot of artists that I come in contact with and I do songs with, and sometimes we'll complete full songs and I'm waiting 3 months in advance and I'm like, yo, you haven't released a song, and they're in this weird space in their head and they think that people are not going to embrace the music. Man, this world is huge. Don't focus on what that other artist has and their followers. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what God gave them. That's the platform God has. Build your platform. Believe in the platform that God has for you, and release all that music. Find confidence in Jesus. Find confidence in yourself, and know that, man, whoever that music is supposed to go to, God's going to lead that to. I would hate to die and to be in front of God and be like, okay, so what did you do with XO amount of gifts that I gave you? And for you to say, well, no one supported me. Well, I didn't have the time. Yes, you did. I gave you 6 months of COVID pandemic. No one had, I didn't have. You're not going to find an excuse. For me at the core heart, I've always lived with that fear to say, I want to be able to do everything God has put in my heart. And when I'm in my deathbed, I don't want to say I could have, would have, I should have. I want to be able to say, no, I did it. I released everything God put inside of me and released it to the world and left a legacy behind for the world to continue to experience God's goodness and grace.
That's so good. There's a pastor, can't remember his name. I think he passed away. He said that the cemetery is full of treasure. It's the richest place to be because there's in the cemetery there are books that were never written, videos that were never made, songs that were never sung, because we hold on to it and we don't release whatever God had given to us to be a blessing to
others. Yeah.
That's so good, man.
Yeah.
That's so good. Hey, so we're here at the end of the show. Before we jump off, is there any last words you'd like to say until next time?
No, man. I mean, stay encouraged. Don't allow COVID to dictate what the future holds for you. Don't allow this pandemic to define what Christ already has defined for you. If you're somebody who's probably don't even have Jesus and you stumbled on this, man, try Jesus. Give him a shot. You've tried everything else. Try him as well. I guarantee you that, man, you won't regret it. You won't regret it. Try Jesus. For those in the faith, stay encouraged. Keep fighting. Find a community. Find a brotherhood. Find a sisterhood. Find a place where you can feel like you're at home and you're able to share the struggles and the things that you're going through. I'm gonna be honest with you. You're not alone. You're not the only one. I've been through a pandemic. I've had the virus. I've overcame the virus. I've battled with the mental fights that come with those things. I battle with the fear that the news continues to put on people. And I'm not saying not to listen to the news. Be aware, but you don't have to live with that kind of bondage. You find that freedom in Jesus, and live with that. Live in that. Live with that freedom, and continue to live your life according to God's riches and God's purpose.
That's so good, man. That's so good. This has been a great conversation. Thanks again for jumping on.
Thank you, man.
Really appreciate it. Last interview was good. This one has been great. I'm looking forward to our next one. Yes. Anybody listening out there right now, man, just let us know what you thought about the conversation in the comment section. If anything in this conversation has really touched your heart, hey, man, just like we talked about, release it, share it.
Yes.
That'd be the best thing to do. That way we can get more people to hear this message and the lessons that God has given DJ Overflow to bless us with. Let's not contain them here, but let's just make it go out there. Yes. DJ Overflow, thank you so much for being on the show. May God continue to bless you, your family, and your ministry, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. You'll have a good night.